Welcome members to Scroll Society, a members-only club for those who are chronically online. Guys, it has been quite a week. I cannot believe how fast the week passed by. I'm like, oh my God, I have to film my podcast one more time. Not that I don't like filming this podcast. I love it. It's just that I use this now as a mark for okay, how fast the week goes. And I feel like I just finished filming the last episode. So it's just been quite a hectic week and so much has happened that I don't know where to start. I genuinely don't know where to start because it's been quite an eventful week. Every time I'm like, okay, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to do the plan for the week. This happened. And I'm like, shit, no, that's no longer relevant because something else happened. And I didn't want to dedicate this episode or talk about the Justin Baldoni-Blake Lively situation because so much has happened. We had the Trump inauguration, we had the 12-hour TikTok ban. We had so many things happen where I'm just like, what do I talk about? What do we talk about? But this whole Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni situation has really exploded, especially yesterday. I usually film the podcast on a Friday. But yesterday, I was invited to be on another podcast by these two local girls, these Emirati girls called Swalif Bait, their own podcast. I'm going to shout them out because they're so cute and they're so fun. So since I had to go and drive to Abu Dhabi, I didn't have time to film my podcast. So I'm like, great, that gives me one extra day to plan my content. And I was literally going to talk about the TikTok ban only and maybe some bits and pieces about the Trump inauguration and a bunch of other things. And then yesterday, Candice Owen drops a bomb about the whole Justin Baldoni, Blake Lively situation. I'm like, oh, you ruined my plans. But also in a good way because I think that extra day gave me a little bit of more clarity about what I wanted to talk about. And I know maybe we have fatigue over this case. But guys, it just keeps unraveling and it gets so juicy and I have so many takes. So let's get into it. By now, you all know the Justin Baldoni, Blake Lively situation. I have dedicated so many episodes to it that we all know the story. If you don't know the story, there's so much online that you can kind of catch up on. So catch up. But the latest update is this week, Justin Baldoni released video footage that they said they had for quite some time of the alleged sexual assault that Blake Lively accused him of. So in her lawsuit that she filed to the California Civil Rights Department or something like that. So it wasn't an official lawsuit. It was a civil defense lawsuit. I don't understand legal jargon in the US. Everything happens very differently there. I'm living in the UAE, so it's just very, very different. But it's not an official lawsuit. But in that, she accused him of sexual harassment and she used that to kind of smear his reputation through the media because she leaked that to the New York Times. So in that, she says, oh, well, there was a scene where, they weren't talking and it was just it was supposed to be a montage of memories. So there's no speech, but it's just them being having a romantic moment, slow dancing, and that Justin Baldoni kissed her in a way that wasn't supposed to be done, and he sniffed her neck or whatever it was, and she felt that was sexual harassment because it goes against what they had agreed upon, etc., etc., etc. And Justin Baldoni's team was like, we have the video footage of all of this, and that's not what went down, and we will prove it. And they've been kind of dangling this for a while, and then they released the footage. And when they released the footage, everyone saw it and we're just like, what? That's not as creepy as she made it out to be. My theory about this whole thing is that I don't think Blake Lively remembered this scene properly, or she didn't think that they had the audio footage of this scene because, it's not a talking scene. So why would they record the audio? But they have audio for it. And when you watch this clip, you realize it's just them talking and they're talking about their spouses, but they still have to be kind of romantic. And she's flirting with him and she's giggling and she's teasing him and she makes fun of his nose and she's like, you need to have a nose job and all these things. It's banter, but it seems like it's reciprocated. And I know they're acting and they have to act in a certain way, but even the way she speaks, the way she laughs, the way she's kind of having that banter back, it does not show that she was uncomfortable at all. Nor did she set her boundaries, nor did she say anything when she has every right to. And I'm not saying that, there's a perfect victim when it comes to sexual harassment, but as someone who has a brain and is using the evidence to make a judgment and a decision, it's like, I don't see it. Like, you have so much power. You've garnered so much power throughout this film. That's, the evidence has shown that you have so much to say and you've been so outspoken. Why wouldn't you be outspoken in this situation if you were made to feel uncomfortable, if boundaries were crossed? Do you know what I mean? So it was very interesting and very telling. But that's still all up in the air because her team was like, see, well, Justin Baldoni just proved through that clip that she was very uncomfortable, And I'm like, I don't see it. Like, I have eyes, I don't see it. But maybe she was uncomfortable. Who knows? Maybe it was just the acting. I don't know. So that was all up in the air. And then yesterday, Candice Owen drops on her stories the biggest bomb ever. And I feel like I'm going to have to show you guys the receipts and we're going to read it together because it's so interesting, because it really confirms something that I've felt for quite some time, but I wasn't able to fully articulate this because I don't know where this feeling was coming from. I don't know if I was making assumptions just based on this feeling or like it has some truth to it. So Candice Owen drops a bomb on her stories, and it's a series of stories explaining this whole thing. And she says, yesterday I received a tip from someone who allegedly worked on the set of It Ends With Us. Lately, everyone is bashing Blake Lively, but apparently the true villain in the saga is ... Ryan Reynolds. Interesting. She says this person is alleging that everything started when Ryan Reynolds started to stroll onto the movie set one day and review the dailies. For those of you who don't know what a dailies is, in Hollywood, I guess when you're filming a movie, it's the daily shots, right? It's the accumulated shots of the different scenes that they've been filming that day. He then also decided to take a look at the script, and between the two, something allegedly set him off. This person claims, and she said, I cannot verify, that the production assistants then overheard Ryan and Blake having an argument in her trailer. What could have happened in the dailies and in the script that made Ryan Reynolds super upset, allegedly? And then she says, an anonymous source, I guess it's a different source, says that Ryan Reynolds started being on the set on a regular basis as if he were her chaperone. And that is when he started inserting himself into the actual production, including writing lines. Now, this is very, very interesting because if you guys remember over the summer when they were promoting the movie It Ends With Us, Blake Lively said in an interview,
we help each other. We work together so much. So the iconic rooftop scene in this movie, my husband actually wrote it. Nobody knows that, but you now. But he wrote it. He works on everything I do. I work on everything he does. So his wins, his celebrations are mine and mine are his.
So this anonymous source actually confirms what Blake Lively herself alluded to. The next part is what has been alleged via their lawsuits. That Ryan and Blake, perhaps in response to her husband's anger, began inserting themselves in an effort to change lines and change scenes. But it gets better. Okay, Candice. It's clear Ryan was determined to humiliate and win against Justin Baldoni. He went so far as to include lines in his separate movie Deadpool and Wolverine about having an intimacy coordinator on set and making fun of Justin Baldoni's feminism and his podcast. And that is alluding to this scene right here.
I'm Deadpool. And I guess you're Deadpool too. But in here, everybody calls me Nice Pool. Oh my goodness, wait till you see Lady Pool. She is gorgeous. She just had a baby too, and can't even tell. I don't think you're supposed to say that. That's okay. I identify as a feminist. You are so mean! My brain could taste your fingers, and they tasted like hate. And where in God's name is the intimacy coordinator? I'd be fighting alongside them, but my calling is to one day host a podcast that monetizes the women's movement.
You see, Ryan created Nice Pool, which is allegedly a spin-off or kind of making fun of Justin Baldoni because he's a feminist and he has a man bun and his whole brand is nice. That they created Nice Pool, which has nothing to do with the Deadpool series or anything to do with the comics. And then Ryan allegedly presented an ultimatum to WME. WME is the talent agency that represents all of the celebrities. And they have a client roster including Taylor Swift and Justin Baldoni. Ryan Reynolds allegedly said, it's us or him. And it's so funny because Candice Owen says, is it just him and Blake Lively or is it the three dragons? I didn't watch Game of Thrones. I don't know if Khaleesi's a dragon, but like, is it the trio? Is it Ryan, Blake, and Taylor who would leave if they keep Justin? Or is it just, the couple? And apparently the source that is alleging this is a different source from the people who were on set. So this is maybe a source who is inside the agency. Who knows? So Candice Owen says, I would imagine having Taylor Swift as your best friend and godmother to your children certainly helps in this situation, right? Because it's a big connection. What Ryan Reynolds did not apparently account for was someone bigger or perhaps maybe just richer than Taylor Swift. I love how Candice Owen just paints this story. She just makes it a lot more dramatic. It's giving XOXO Gossip Girl. Wayfarer Studios has effectively been instantly blackballed. They're persona non grata in Hollywood, instantly. And truly, they had done nothing wrong but cast a woman into one of their movies with an allegedly very jealous husband. And we're going to get to the story of the jealous husband in just a second. Candice says that my source says that Justin Baldoni is legitimately a good guy who truly wanted to do this project, but he cares deeply about women's issues. Wayfarer Studios was meant to be a feel-good family movie studio. So apparently Wayfarer Studios is backed by Steve Sarowitz, a super D, I guess Democratic, super liberal billionaire who is at the point in his life where he just wants to do good. And she goes on in the next couple of stories explaining who Steve Sarowitz is. So apparently Steve Sarowitz, being related or the biggest backer and investor in Wayfarer Studios, has dragged him into this situation. And he didn't like the fact that, a jealous husband has essentially ruined his entire investment. So according to Candice Owen, here's what she thinks happened. Ryan Reynolds is grossly insecure. This is in part motivated by the fact that he dates and married women who are at least over a decade younger than him. So she says apparently that's because, when he dated Scarlett Johansson, he was 8 years older than her. I think he's 10 years older than Blake Lively. So he likes to date girls with a large or quite a significant age difference. And Scarlett Johansson apparently alluded to the fact that they got divorced because he was really jealous. And again, Candice Owen has the receipts. She screenshotted the interview with Elle magazine many, many years ago when Scarlett Johansson said this. And she says, the logistics of being with another actor are challenging. There has to be a real understanding of how you share your time, especially when two people's careers are going at the same rate, or even if one person is more successful than the other. Interesting. That also proves challenging, and there may be a competitive thing. So Scarlett Johansson is also alluding to the fact that maybe Ryan Reynolds was super jealous of her success, especially around the time that they were together. She was in Black Widow, and she's, a big character in the Marvel series. And I don't think that sits well with someone of Ryan Reynolds' personality who, let's be honest, also wanted to be a Marvel superhero, ended up being a Marvel superhero, manifested that vision and that dream. And I know it's a big money maker and everyone in Hollywood wants to do that, but isn't it strange that you want to force yourself into a situation that your ex-wife was in? You want to have that same level of success and that same brand. I don't know. I just find it very interesting. It feels very, very competitive. Even though he did really well, I think the Deadpool series is really interesting, but I just also find it very peculiar that he essentially kind of pushed her out. She even said, there's been rumblings, I think, where it's known that Scarlett Johansson pulled out of the Marvel series as soon as Ryan Reynolds started entering that series, because she didn't want that overlap and she does not want to be working with either Ryan Reynolds or Blake Lively. So very, very interesting situation. Okay, so Candice Owen says, with all of this information, when you reflect on just how much Ryan inserted himself into the film and his weird pattern of acting his personal frustrations out, and she included a clip, which I'm going to include right now, of one of Ryan's castmates saying how he went off script and started attacking the other actor as if he was the Deadpool character.
I would not have done Deadpool 3 if they came to me and they were like, we want you to do Deadpool 3 and we're going to pay you twice as much.
Over that one incident?
TJ Miller, who plays Weasel in the Deadpool series, says he will never work with Ryan Reynolds again.
Would I work with him again? No.
No.
I would not work with him
that
again.
much vitriol.
TJ Miller explains that while they were filming a scene for Deadpool 2, Ryan Reynolds used the opportunity to target him personally with a hurtful riff.
Really weird moment on Deadpool where he said, let's do one more take. And everyone was like, okay. And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. And then as the character, he was like horrifically mean to me. But to me.
Cathartic.
But as if I'm Weasel.
Right.
So he was like, you know what's great about you, Weasel? You're not the star. But you just, you do just enough exposition that it's funny, and then we can leave and get back to the real movie.
So he's riffing.
TJ believes that maybe Ryan's insecurities are the reason he bullied him.
I think he's kind of an insecure dude.
So it's like really interesting. It feels like in that clip, TJ Miller is saying that Ryan Reynolds is hiding behind the fact or hiding behind the character so that he can act like an asshole and say whatever he wants to say. Like as if to say Ryan Reynolds is a big bully. And you kind of get that with the Deadpool character. Like obviously he created this Deadpool character, but Deadpool's always been this type of personality in the comic book series. But I really feel like Ryan Reynolds made the character his own and injected his personality into Deadpool. Because like whenever you watch any other movie with Ryan Reynolds, he always plays himself. He's an actor much like, I was going to say Serena van der Woodsen. He is very much similar to his wife in the sense that they're not good actors. They're good when they act as themselves within the movie, but they can't give us range. Like there are some actors that give us full range. They give us serious, they give us drama, they give us sadness, whatever. But I feel like they give us like, they really embody their character. Obviously, a good example of that would be like Johnny Depp or even Brad Pitt or, two quite problematic actors. I'm trying to find someone who's not Meryl Streep. Like you give me Meryl Streep, she can be so many different people. That's what a good actor does. Stanley Tucci, great actor. If we want to go down the Gossip Girl route, Penn Badgley, fantastic actor. Like he gives us, Daniel Humphrey, but then he can give us you. Like he gives us a full range. Like he can be psychotic and he can be, a different character completely. But whereas I feel like Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, they just play themselves. They're like The Rock. My brother said this the other day, so shout out to my brother, credit to him. They're all in, like they play themselves. The Rock shows up as The Rock in every single movie. He doesn't give us anything else. He gets paid to make different movies like The Rock in different situations and scenarios, but he's always the same character. He plays himself. And I feel like Ryan Reynolds does the same. They're not actors. They just do cameos that pay a lot of money, And Blake Lively's the same. So it's very interesting to see that when he was working on Deadpool, according to his castmate, TJ Miller, who said he hides behind that shield of playing the character and that the character is saying all of this, but he's like berating and insulting his castmate. So it's a bit weird, and it kind of plays into that story that Ryan Reynolds is a big bully and essentially a jerk. So going back to Candice Owens, Candice Owen goes on and on and on, but she says that the real villain here is Ryan Reynolds, that he inserted himself into the story or into the situation to take over the movie because he felt threatened by Justin Baldoni. Maybe Justin Baldoni is more handsome, or maybe, he brought out a different side to Blake. Maybe she fell in love with him. Who knows? We don't know. There's that missing element in this whole situation that we don't know about. We know about everything else, but we don't know why. Like, what was the tipping point? Because everything seemed okay. And with all of these things happening, I had to go back and remember the blind items. Now, for those of you who don't know what a blind item is, I literally live and breathe blind items. It's like my favorite form of entertainment. A blind item is published by this website called Crazy Days and Nights, okay? And they've been around for, I don't know, I want to say over 15 years, where it's these anonymous people in Hollywood. They say they're called, and one of them is called NT Lawyer. So I guess he's like a very famous entertainment lawyer who has all of the gossip and all of the tea about Hollywood and publishes these stories under pseudonyms. So like he has a website, he has a blog, and he's allowed to post these things because he doesn't mention their names. He doesn't say Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively. No, he's like, the north of the border actor and this, B-list everything actress in her mind or whatever it is. Like he'll give them like these nicknames and you have to guess. And a lot of the times people guess correctly, right? Or he will reveal the stories later. He'll reveal on his website. I say him, I don't know, maybe it's a her, who knows? But they'll reveal on their website, on this blog, when it's true, when it comes true, and like when the story manifests itself, right, in the media. A good example is like, let's say, a couple wants to get divorced. He will report about them potentially getting divorced months before they get divorced, because once they've started filing, or like there are rumblings or whatever it is, but he won't ever mention their name. And once it gets announced in the media, in the press, or like if anything happens, he'd be like, see, I told you guys months ago that these two were going to get divorced. And it did. They got divorced. You know what I mean? So the blind items have been saying for quite some time, and I want to say years, that Ryan Reynolds is a jealous and overprotective husband, and he doesn't want Blake Lively to act. Allegedly. This is all alleged. This is all according to the blind items. I've been reading this for quite some time, so I've always had this in my mind. I'm like, is it the Ryan Reynolds household? Like, he doesn't seem like the type of person who is overprotective of his wife, because he's always like praising her, and like he's like, look at my wife, she's amazing, da da da. But apparently he doesn't like her being in big movies. Like, he'll let her act in small movies and stuff, but he has to be the big breadwinner, the super successful one, in this power couple dynamic. And apparently he didn't want her to act, or every time he doesn't want her to act, he like gets her pregnant. This is according to the blind items. Again, I didn't make this thing up. It's in the blinds. Go find them. So I always found that interesting, and I was like, that doesn't sound like them. And I never believed it. I'm like, this blind item is wrong. I'm like, this doesn't sound like them, because this doesn't sound like their public persona. But now with everything happening and everything unfolding with the Ends With Us drama, I'm like, is Ryan Reynolds abusive? Like, is he the narcissist in this situation? And is Blake Lively in an abusive marriage? Because like, could he be injecting himself into all of this because he's jealous of her success, and he's jealous of the potential connection she has with this other man who seems like a threat to him, because maybe Ryan Reynolds is grossly insecure? Who knows? I don't know. But rewatching all of his interviews now, and even his character as Deadpool, and seeing him from the lens of being a narcissist, I'm like, we thought his like humor was charming, but maybe like he really is the jerk that everyone says he is. Maybe he really is the jealous husband that Scarlett Johansson alluded to. Maybe he is the one who is trying to sabotage his wife's career and her reputation. Not realizing in him doing that, he's also ruining his own reputation. But a narcissist never sees what they're doing as wrong. They always think that they're right, right? So I find that really, really interesting. And I saw someone online say that maybe what's happening is Blake Lively is throwing everyone under the bus to kind of get Ryan Reynolds' approval, right? Especially when you're in a narcissistic relationship, like a situation with a narcissist, you're always trying to get that validation and acceptance, and you want their approval because they berate you and they're so mean to you, and they lower your value. They lower your value, they lower your self-worth. And so maybe Blake is defying all odds and trying to seek Ryan Reynolds' approval, because like that makes sense according to what Candice Owen said, that the alleged sources say that he just came on one day on set and everything changed after that. He wanted to see the dailies. They were fighting, they were arguing, they were screaming and shouting. Like, if they're screaming and shouting from the trailer, like how mad is he? You know what I mean? Like, it's very interesting. And so I have to ask myself, are we seeing It Ends With Us unfold on the larger stage? Like, is Ryan Ryle? Like, is he the abuser? Is she in a toxic relationship? Should she be saved? Like, have we been too harsh on Blake Lively? Like, now I'm worried for her safety and her mental safety, because if she's not the one who truly is the asshole here, even though like we've seen interviews where she's pretty problematic and, she can be very aggressive. And I don't know if this is learned behavior from her husband, because if there is that large age difference and she met him at a young age and she depends on him and all of these things, maybe she learns his mannerisms and she learns that, you have to be an asshole in this world, and that's how you get what you need and stuff like that. And she sees Taylor Swift do the same thing. She sees the people around her who are like this, where she's like, you know, she sees her dragons being dragons, that she needs to be a dragon herself. Who knows? I don't know. It's all up in the air. But I just find it so interesting. I'm like, is she the one who's truly, truly the victim in all of this, and that Ryan Reynolds is the one who's toxic and this is just going to self-combust and they're going to get divorced? Or is she going to, you know, I worry for her mental safety. Is her mental safety going to be so bad that she, you know, or so I don't want to say it, but like now I'm really worried, because if she's going to get so much hate from everyone online, and if she's going to get so much hate from everyone in the industry, they're going to blackball her, because like, look at what she did. It's all in her name. The lawsuits are in her name. Is this going to ruin her? And is this something that Ryan Reynolds had wanted from the beginning? Like, he doesn't want her to work, and he doesn't want her to be successful. He doesn't want to be overshadowed by her success, even if it's for a split second. And if she feels like she's not getting the validation from her husband, and she's not getting the validation from the external, like, what's going to happen to Blake? Like, I'm genuinely worried for her now, because like, what is Ryan capable of? Do you know what I mean? And is she going to feel so unsupported and so alone? So I find that really interesting. And I have to pose this question. Is Blake the true victim, and is Ryan the true abuser? Who knows? I don't know. As this all unfolds, I'm like looking at everything side-eyed. You know, I'm like, And I really urge you to read the blind items, because they're so interesting. But there's a lot that has been said in this blind item situation about this couple for quite a long time, that I feel like it's all going to come out. Like, in the next couple of months, I'm not going to be surprised if we hear even more outrageous things that have happened, and more outrageous things that are going to come out about this specific couple. Because I think at the beginning, everyone in Hollywood wanted to believe all women, right? Like, Me Too, believe all women. We're going to stand with women about sexual harassment and all these things. But I wonder, now that the tides are turning, and now that everyone is kind of distancing themselves from this power couple, and the more they distance themselves, the more they lose power, right? Because no one wants to touch them. They're radioactive. They're like a cancer. They don't want to get anywhere near them. So essentially, they're going to start losing their power. And if they start losing their power, will the people that they tried to silence, or the people that they've wronged, will they now come out and speak out? Like, will we have people speak out about Ryan Reynolds and his behavior and how he is on set in his different movies? Will other celebrities say different things? Like, will cast members, crew members come out of the woodworks? Like, I don't know. But I feel like maybe, because as they start losing their power, more people will have the courage to speak out, and we'll start to understand more about these celebrities who've been put in such a high regard, that we never really know who they really are. And now this is all unfolding. Everything's coming out. I feel like their star is going to fade, and we're going to start seeing them for who they really are. And I feel like people are not going to be scared to say anything anymore, if that makes sense. And before I wrap up this story, because like we spent such a long time talking about the Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds situation, I saw this interview, or like a video with the reporter. If you guys remember, she's like I don't know if she's Dutch or if she's from Sweden, but that reporter who over the summer released the video of an old interview that she did with Blake Lively, you know, where she's like, I like your bump. And then she's like, I like your bump, you know, where Blake Lively was being super passive aggressive to her and really mean. That reporter, her name is Flo, and she's really cool. I feel like she's really milking the situation. I've never seen someone milk a situation more, but I guess everyone's got to do something for their 15 minutes of fame. But she's really milking the situation with the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni drama. But she did this interview with a crisis comms expert, okay? Asking him about the whole situation and how you would advise Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds if you were if they were your client. And he was just like, I would have just told them to shut up and not do this whole lawsuit to begin with. Because it's very clear that there's so much misunderstanding, that this is so clear that this is a lawsuit to win PR, like good public relations. Because I don't think Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds assumed or even thought for a split second that Justin Baldoni had the money to be able to fight back. because he doesn't have the money to fight back. This is all Steve Sorowitz, who was trying to, save face for his investment. He's invested in Wayfarer Studios, which is why he is banding together and supporting Justin Baldoni in this lawsuit, because he's trying to save his investment. And I don't think that Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds thought that Justin Baldoni could fight back. So they thought that they could just, file this lawsuit, release this story, this smear campaign against Justin Baldoni with the New York Times, and then that would be the end of it. They've ended his career, they've saved face, and they'll move on. So this crisis comms expert was like, they should have just said nothing. They should have said nothing. They should have taken the L. They had a rough summer. That's fine. You move on. You move on. But he says this is a clear example of the Streisand effect. And I found this so interesting because the Streisand effect is hilarious. It is so funny. For those of you who don't know what the Streisand effect is, yes, it is related to the famous Barbra Streisand, okay? It is actually such a funny story, but I feel like it's such a good example of why you should just let things go, okay? Just let it go. So the Streisand effect is what happens when you try to hide or delete something and it ends up getting way more attention instead. So it's the attempt of trying to hide something and be like, I don't want you to see it. Don't see it. Don't see it. And because you've done such an effort to kind of be like, don't look at it. Everyone's like, I want to look at it. Like, what is it? Tell me. I want to know. And it becomes a bigger story and you've drawn more attention because you're trying to distract, like hide the attention. You know what I mean? Like you've drawn so much attention in saying don't look at it that everyone's like, well, actually, now I want to look at it. And the reason why they call it the Streisand effect is because of Barbra Streisand, who once sued to get a photo of her house taken offline. So apparently, like someone was taking a photo of like a bunch of houses on a beachfront in California. So it wasn't just her house, it was like a bunch of houses. But then she caught wind of the fact that like her house has been published online, but no one knew it was Barbra Streisand's house. They just thought millionaire's house with a bunch of other millionaire houses. You know what I mean? So she sued, and because she sued, it became such a big story. The lawsuit made everyone super curious and millions of people went to look at her house. And now everyone knows where Barbra Streisand lives. Like in an attempt to protect her privacy, she exposed herself. And that's why they called it the Barbra Streisand or the Streisand effect. So basically, the harder you try to make something go away, the more people notice it. It's like when you tell someone, don't look, and then they look, you know? So it's really, really funny. So this crisis comms expert is saying this is essentially the Streisand effect. In Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively doing their whole like publicity stunt of a lawsuit at the beginning and telling people like, look at him, he's a bad person. Don't look at us. Don't look at how we contributed to this. Look at him. It encouraged people to kind of dig through the whole situation. Because let's be realistic. This lawsuit and both of their lawsuits, I'm not just talking about Justin Baldoni, I'm not just talking about Blake Lively. I think collectively, everyone involved in this situation, with every lawsuit, with every piece of information, with every press release, with every leak, with everything, this is a lawsuit for the PR. This is a PR war. This is not a legal lawsuit. This is not something that anyone's going to win something out of. No one's going to win any money. Essentially what both sides are trying to do is they're trying to win the PR war because they've been dragged. But I think if Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds had just dropped this, just moved on, take the L, have a bad summer and drop it, this wouldn't have happened. But this has created the Streisand effect in which they wanted to distract and tell people to kind of drag Justin Baldoni, but it dragged everyone into it. It's kind of like the saying, don't wrestle with pigs because you're going to get dirty. Like essentially don't stoop to the same level because you're going to get dirty, right? You're going to get dragged into it. And essentially that's what happened. Both sides are getting dragged into it and everyone's getting dragged into it when they should have just stayed silent. And I feel like Justin Baldoni's initial approach to all of this was to stay silent. Like he was just focusing on the movie. Like even when she tried to accuse him of astroturfing and the smear campaign, when he then showed all of the receipts for all of their text messages. Because remember, in her lawsuit, she put like very selective screenshots that weren't the full context. Like she'll cut out different text before and after to make it seem like Justin Baldoni's team was astroturfing, to make it seem like Justin Baldoni's team hired bots and hired all these things to kind of attack Blake when it was all organic. It was all organic. She doesn't understand. Her and Ryan Reynolds don't understand how modern social media and marketing is. Even though, really funny, because Ryan Reynolds has a marketing agency. But I think when you reach a certain age, and I don't want to say this because I feel like once I reach a certain age, I'll be the same, which is so annoying. But I feel like if you don't get with the times, if you don't adapt to different social media platforms, because social media is the new media, whether you like it or not, you've got something now called legacy media, which is TV, PR, press, newspaper, and then you have social media. This is the new media. This is the media that matters. Legacy media does not have the same credibility anymore because we know it can be easily bought. Whereas digital media is where it's at, and you need to know how the landscape is. And I feel like the older generation just don't get it. They don't get it. They think it works the same way as before, where they have this lawsuit and then the legacy media will pick it up because you've paid them and you have a lot of influence and you have a lot of power and stuff like that. And you can manipulate people to see which side they go. But in the day of social media, everyone has an opinion. You've got every Reddit and blogs and Instagram and TikTok and Twitter and all of it. Everyone has an opinion, and there are different subgroups and all these things, and people can bring out receipts and things can go viral on their own. Some things can be manufactured and bought with bots, but not everything. And it really pisses me off when I see people from legacy media talk about this and they're like, well, it's the bots, it's whatever. It kind of is very telling of themselves because they're like, we cannot understand why so many people are against this. So of course it should be bots, and no one understands how bots work. And they think that bots can be hired to change people's opinions. I understand that can happen on a political sphere. It can happen. I'm not saying it doesn't, but Blake Lively ruined her own career because of how she acted on the red carpets and in the interviews. We saw it with our own eyes. She's not likable. She is mean. We've seen it time and time again. We've seen it from her Gossip Girl days. And it's an accumulation of all of her different interactions in the media and the interviews and everything that gave people the ick. It wasn't because it was astroturfing or because someone was trying to target her. It was the people who saw this, and it's a good example of modern media today. And for example, why they want to ban an app like TikTok, right? Because these people who are so, I don't want to say elite, but so higher up, they're so out of touch with how the world actually works that they can't understand how normal people communicate, right? They don't understand the system because they're not in it, and they see themselves above it. For the longest time, these celebrities like Justin, what's her name? Justin, Jennifer Aniston, and Billie Eilish, and everyone who's like, well, these social media, it's there's no talent, and the talent is actually in us and whatever. It's kind of elitist. It's you don't see the value in the social media. You don't see the value in community. You don't see the value in people making opportunities for themselves. That you just completely you're like, that's social media. Ugh, ew, I'm better than that, So the people who separate themselves from the community, they don't understand how it works. And I feel like that is their biggest downfall, is that they were depending so hard on traditional media, on legacy media, to kind of build this narrative that they don't understand that it's the general public reacting to how you guys are reacting. And there's a massive change, a massive shift in the way people are now reacting with people who have always been perceived to be as elite, or perceived to be as the stars, the celebrities, the politicians, the everything, the billionaires. There is a shift in the way people perceive them and interact with them and respect them. And that has been seen throughout. It's not just in Hollywood. It is, in politics. It is in business. It's in everything. People are sick and tired. We're on a global kind of revolution, I want to say. People don't like this elitist segregation because cost of living has gone up so much. People are struggling. People are feeling like the system is continuously oppressing them, that they don't have any sympathy. that you need to be super grounded. You need to be super humble. You need to be super real to actually gain and garner attention and gain and garner respect. Respect, I want to say that's more than just attention, respect. And I know I'm going off on a tangent, but I feel like this is really important to talk about because I feel like that's where a lot of businesses, a lot of public figures really struggle. Like, I think the reason why, and I've spoken about this before, but the reason why Trump won is because he took himself down to their level, to the level of the everyday. He's a billionaire. He's an oligarch. But he came down to the level of the people. He went on the podcasts. Like, someone like Kamala Harris lost the election because she refused to go to Joe Rogan and fly over to campaign and go on his podcast. She called her daddy to Washington and she said, you only have 45 minutes. You need to do this fast. Whereas, Donald Trump was like, yeah, I'll go. I'll have a couple of hours. I'll sit with you. And he went the rounds to all the podcasters. He went down to the people. That's what is important. Like, he got it. And I'm not saying I'm a Trump supporter, but I'm saying from a social media perspective, from a modern media perspective, in today's day and age, we're in 2025, the traditional way of doing things no longer works. You need to get with the times. If you are watching this, you're a business owner, if you're a public figure, if you want to make it in this world, you need to understand the dynamics between the people. You need to understand how the social media works and why it's valuable, why it's important. And then you use it to kind of do your outreach, get your leads, build your brand, build your story, build your narrative. But for you to just act in the same way that it's been done for so many years is a recipe for a disaster because people don't have trust in that system anymore because they're so sick and tired of elitists, So I feel like this is the biggest issue in this whole situation is that they didn't understand how social media is. And then they're vilifying social media and they're vilifying this organic reaction by saying you're all bots. No, you're all bots. And that's the biggest issue I had. I did a video where I stitched Coco Moco. She's like this big TikToker. She talks about social media. She talks about digital media and trends and all of these things. And I feel like she's on the Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds payroll because she said the same thing. She's like, everyone's all bots. Like, all of these people are bots. I'm like, I beg your fucking pardon. You are a Gen Zer. You say you've built your whole brand over saying that, you are an expert in TikTok and an expert in the digital media, but you don't understand that there are people who organically are creating this content. She's like, oh no, there's a lot of these accounts that are like, user 564321, whatever, and they don't have a display name and they've never posted a video. If you think that everyone is like you and they're posting their picture and they're posting a video and they're putting their real names on social media, then you're so fucking naive. Sorry. Like I did this stitch with Coco Mocha. Like I replied to her video and a lot of people agreed with me because it's so absolutely naive. Like, either you're naive and you actually don't understand how the social media landscape is and that the fact that not everyone posts. There are a lot of people who like having their anonymous accounts because they just want to consume content. They don't want to create content. They want to consume content. And then suddenly you label these people bots because they decide to have an opinion and comment. Like, sit down. Be fucking for real. It's absolutely ridiculous to say that and not actually take ownership and accountability for your negative actions. That's something that really pisses me off. I'm not saying apologize if you don't think you're wrong. Like, if you don't think you're wrong, that's fine, but say something and address, like, hold yourself accountable. Say, yes, I said that. Yes, I was mean. Maybe, yes, I said this, but this is what I actually meant. Address it. Talk to people. Get down on their level. Be vulnerable. Be open. That's what people want. People don't want this like fabricated public image where it's completely like, you sat with a strategist and you're doing all of these pap walks and you're doing, like, no one cares for that shit anymore. They want the real people. They want people to be on their same level. They want people to be vulnerable. They want people to be real, and they don't want people to feel like there's a barrier between me and you. I don't want to feel like you're a billionaire. I want to feel like you're a normal person. Even if you're a billionaire, I want to understand, like, one of the things that I really enjoyed in Trump's interview with Joe Rogan. And again, I'm not a Trump supporter. I think, I don't give a fucking shit about anyone. They're all really bad. But what I liked in terms of like the PR perspective of Donald Trump. And I remember telling my husband this when we were watching the interview, and I was like, there's something very refreshing about the fact that Donald Trump says, I made a mistake. You know, politicians don't do that. They don't come out and say, well, yeah, that was, we made a mistake. They're like, no, we did this. And they kind of like weasel their way out of it because like they've been prepped by their, comms people. They have media training. I think that's the biggest word that you say in the industry. They have media training. They know how to avoid certain questions and situations. They weasel, they sneak their way out of it so that no one holds them accountable for anything. And I think what was so refreshing about Trump is that he was like, well, yeah, in my last presidency, like my last term, I made a mistake. Like I thought I was doing the right thing, but then I found out I didn't. And we learn from our mistakes, we move on. I was like, that's so fucking refreshing. No one ever says that. No one ever says I made a mistake. He made a mistake. He moved on. He's like, I learned my lesson. I learned A, B, C, D. And it's just something so real about it that I think people are craving and is lacking in mainstream media and is lacking from all of these celebrities and is lacking from all of these high profile people. So I feel like if Blake had come out in the summer when that video went out of her being really mean to the reporter and stuff like that, I think if she'd just come out and said, I was having a bad day. I was pregnant, my pregnancy hormones. I wasn't, I was probably mean to her, but like this and this happened and I'm having a bad day and I'm really sorry. Like deal or flow, I didn't mean to lash out at you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for my behavior. Please, let's forgive me. Let's move on. Let's do something. Let's do an interview together. You know what I mean? Like she could have fixed that situation so much, but instead they just chose to ignore it and continued doing what they usually do because they think that they have the mainstream media in their pockets, which is what they did. They do. They have the mainstream media in their pockets, but they cease to understand that the mainstream media, legacy media, is no longer relevant. Legacy media is no longer relevant. So it doesn't matter if that you have them in their pocket or they're in your pocket. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because what matters is social media. What matters is digital media, the new media. How do you win these people over? Hold yourself accountable. Address that you've made a mistake. Be honest, be vulnerable, come to the people's level, which is what didn't happen here, which is why all of this exploded. So yeah, that's all I have to say about this issue. This story, I have so many things. If I showed you, I'm going to show you a picture. If I showed you what I have on my notes, I have a whiteboard behind my camera so I can see all of my notes. And I just went, I took the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni situation took over this episode. But I think we said a lot of interesting things. And I think going back to social media, there's one more thing I wanted to talk about. Everything else, I think we can ignore. All of my research for nothing. It's okay. These things happen. But the thing I wanted to touch upon is the power of social media and the power of new media. And I think that is very clear when we see the TikTok ban. I think the US government in the last couple of months or the last year, I would say, has really understood the value in social media and the danger it brings to their established system, right? They have spent so many years trying to build their narrative, trying to build their system of communication, their system of like everything, okay? That a social media app that decentralizes and I guess democratizes everyone's voices becomes such a threat to the establishment. And there's so much value there that they decided to ban it because it's a threat to the system that they've built and they've spent so much time building. So with that being said, I feel like TikTok and other social media apps prioritize America and American content because they see America as a big money maker. And not only that, it whatever America does sets the precedent for the rest of the world, which is why they prioritize the US. And, you see the CEO of TikTok show, going and campaigning for the rights of Americans to have their freedom of speech and to have the right to make money right? Like a lot of small businesses are making money off of TikTok. A lot of creators have built careers out of making money over TikTok and stuff like that. And even smaller creators are just paying for their bills in this economy through TikTok. And I just find it really offensive because Show is going and fighting for the right of Americans because he's like, this is so important and we're creating, a good economy and they're contributing to the economy and stuff like that. But he doesn't do the same for the rest of the world. And I'm really disappointed. Like, look, TikTok is one of my biggest platforms. I have the most followers on there. I'm trying to diversify, but like nothing's the same as TikTok, I have to admit. But it's just such a shame that TikTok prioritizes only like a select few and gives them the ability to make money off of TikTok where the rest of the world doesn't. And that I feel is so offensive because like the US shut you down for 12 hours. I know it's just 12 hours or whatever, and you have 90 days to make a change. But like, they're strong-arming you. They don't even respect you, and yet you are still making them a priority. And you're letting the creators, the American creators, make money. You are supporting them. They are creating content not for free. There are creators around the world, me included, who TikTok is our main job. We are content creators. We sit and we do the research, we create content, we edit, we do all these things. We try to grow our page and we do it for free. We do it so that then maybe some brands will come to us and we can make money off of brand deals. But we never make money off of views. We're doing everything for free. And it's just so annoying to see that TikTok only prioritizes 7 countries. So it's like the US, the UK, France, Germany, Brazil, South Korea, and Japan. Those are the 7 countries that have the creator fund. The rest of the world doesn't. The rest of the world does it for free. And it's just so disappointing to see TikTok bend over backwards for Americans. And I'm not attacking Americans. I'm just saying, why not the rest of the world to get them onto the creator fund when everyone should deserve to be on the creator fund? And a lot of people, I did this video last week or over the week. I'm like, why is it that just Americans are doing it? And I get attacked by Americans saying, you guys are boring. Like, that's not fair. You guys didn't even give us a chance. The algorithm prioritizes American content. You don't even see my content for you to say that my content is boring. And what do you mean my content is boring? Maybe it's boring for you, but there is a lot of people who would enjoy it. But for some reason, American content gets pushed onto us. And I know people say, well, it's the way that you interact with the algorithm, but everyone had the same sentiment. When the Americans disappeared for 12 hours, we started getting content from all around the world. Everyone was talking about this. Everyone was saying, oh my God, this is so refreshing. I'm seeing content from Nigeria. I'm seeing content from Australia. I'm seeing content from South Africa. I'm seeing content from everywhere around the world except the United States because they disappeared. And it's just so refreshing. I want the same level of diversity. I don't want to just see American content. And yet everyone around the world from all of these countries, okay, we all noticed the same thing. And we came to the consensus and we came to the conclusion that TikTok prioritizes American content and pushes American content to the rest of the world. And my question is, why? Why is it that TikTok will promote and push all of this content to the rest of the world and then they get paid off of those views? So not only do they get visibility, they get money off of our eyeballs. Why don't we get the same treatment? And do not tell me that it's because we are boring. No, that's not true. It's just that you guys are loud and you guys are dominating. And it just, for me, it's not an attack on Americans. So many Americans got so offended. They're like, well, you guys are boring. Where you guys, whatever. It's not a personal attack on you. Stop being the victim. Relax, calm down. All we're doing is asking for equality. I am talking to TikTok, the application. I am not talking to Americans. So like, have a seat. Ask yourself if you're getting triggered by this. Ask yourself why, because, there's no reason for you to get triggered. If someone is asking for equal opportunity, why are you getting triggered? Is it because maybe your privilege will be affected? Maybe. Then that's something you need to ask yourself. So I'm just asking TikTok, why doesn't the rest of the world get the creator fund? And I know a lot of people in the comments are saying, well, because the US has, the largest number of users. And I'm actually, you know what? That's not true. The US is the second largest country to have like the most users. The first is Indonesia. Believe it or not, Indonesia has more TikTok users than the US. But for some reason, Indonesia does not have the creator fund. So that doesn't make sense either. It's clearly soft power. It's clearly something that's a little bit more political. I feel like because the US does have dominance when it comes to media around the world. We listen to American music, we watch American movies, we follow American fashion. America is the dominant culture when it comes to the global culture. They have the biggest dominance when it comes to hard power and soft power. So it's very clear that America gets the priority because of how, how they've taken their seat at the table when it comes to the global stage. But it's just unfair. And, all I'm asking from TikTok is to give everyone the equal opportunity to make money, the same way we're able to make money off of YouTube. I know that TikTok has ads and they make money off of ads because I get ads on TikTok all the time. I know that TikTok makes money. Like, make a global creator fund. Okay, make the requirements harder. Like, I know before, I think in the US, it's like if you have over 10,000 followers, you can make money off of the creator fund. Okay, great. Make it 100,000. Make it 500,000. Make the requirements harder to make money. If it's money that's like, you're like, we only have a limited quantity of money, so we can't give everyone money. Okay, fair. Make the requirements harder, but make it equal. Make it so that an American and a Nigerian and an Australian and a South African and an Indonesian has to have the same equal opportunities. That's it. That's all we're asking. We're asking for equality here. We're asking for people to have the same opportunities globally. It is not fair that only a select few can benefit off of TikTok. That all of us put the same amount of time and effort into creating content and building our pages. And yet, there are people who are making more money just because they are seen as more valuable. That is unfair. Like, all we're asking is to even out the playing field. I feel like I've yelled a lot this episode, so I'm really sorry if you're listening to this in your ears with like headphones on Spotify or Apple or whatever it is. But it's just been quite a week. I feel like we talked about quite a lot, even though it was just two subjects, but they're very interconnected and they're very related. But I hope you enjoyed this episode. I think I'm going to end it here. Yeah, I'm definitely going to end it here. And let me know what you guys think in the comments below. What do you guys think of the whole Justin Baldoni, Blake Lively situation? What do you think of the TikTok ban? Were you affected? Were you not affected? And yeah, are you for or against a global creator fund on TikTok? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next time. And yeah, thank you for listening to Scroll Society, a members-only club for those who are chronically online. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this podcast, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye!